Come to Terrace, BC, and it's easy to notice the love within the services in this small and spirited community. This is a show about the people and organizations that give back and make this area so awesome. This is Good in Terrace. In this episode, we visit the Kassan Society as they prepare for an annual homelessness awareness walk. Vicky Serafini is the communications specialist at Kassan.
We are hosting Coldest Night of the Year tomorrow, Saturday, February 25th. It is a fundraising event. It's a walk where participants will do they'll walk a designated route around downtown Terrace. Participants can walk either 5 kilometers or 2.5 kilometers, and the hub of the event is the garage on Calum Street. Blue Sea Foundation is an organization that it's kind of an umbrella organization, and they organize different fundraising events. This one, Coldest Night of the Year, is nationally attended. Cities all over Canada participate. February being sort of the coldest month of the year across Canada, and also the most difficult month of the year to be experiencing homelessness, is sort of why it happens on February 25th. In Terrace, Kassan has been hosting since 2017. I'm going to be walking, my husband is coming, our 5-year-old is coming, he's going to be handing out glow sticks. I know some people who are going to bring their pups along the way. There'll be the way the event goes is that we encourage people to show up at the garage around 4 o'clock, where you can sort of check in and get familiar with the route and maybe have a chat with your fellow walkers. At 5 o'clock, we will have sort of a little opening ceremonies, opening remarks, and then at 5:15, we will set out on our walk. There'll be the route is marshaled, so it'll be pretty clear where folks are going to walk. I'm hoping we can all kind of stick together and walk as a big group. And then here at the administration building, we're going to have a hot chocolate warming station for folks, and they can come in and warm up and get some hot chocolate and then head off on their way. And then the event ends at the garage, where we will have some hot soup and buns for folks to enjoy. The Salvation Army has very generously offered to bring their soup truck and help us serve that, so it'll be great. And then the event wraps up at 7. This is going to be the first in-person event that we've hosted since COVID, and we have sort of knocked all of our goals out of the park in terms of fundraising, in terms of the number of walkers registered. We've had fantastic sponsorship from local businesses, both small and bigger companies operating within the area. So overall, very well received. I think people are excited to be doing things in person, and I think that kind of homelessness is really on everyone's mind in Terrace because it is sort of an issue that impacts everyone. It's impossible to ignore, and I think basically you can't ignore what you can see. So everyone in Terrace is aware of sort of the encampments that have existed in town, that have gone up, that have been taken down. And we just see people on the street. We see them in our public spaces, so it's hard to ignore. So the money that Kassan Society collects all goes directly towards supporting any of our homelessness programming. So a lot of it goes towards the capacity expansion shelter, or the shelter at Kassan place on the south side, and it's all sort of like basic necessities for sort of supporting and operating. So in terms of operation, it's buying groceries, it's buying even like cleaning supplies to maintain the shelter, and then a lot of things like toques, mittens, blankets, socks, personal hygiene products for clients, things like that, just the basic things that people need but cannot access if they're living in homelessness. We've had a lot of support this year, which has been really heartwarming. And just again to point out that like, you know, Kasan is maybe hosting Coldest Night of the Year. Kasan operates the homelessness shelters, but really we work with a number of different like agencies to provide those services. There's a bunch of them, so like Kermode Friendship Society, TDCSS, the City of Terrace. The shelters in particular work a lot with the bylaw officers, and that's been a really great working relationship. The RCMP, of course, Northern Health, yes, and make sure that anyone who comes through the door gets sort of like the support that they need.
Do you ever have to turn people away?
No, nobody gets turned away. We always find housing for people if they come. Not everybody chooses to go to a shelter every night. You know, people have make their own choices and they have their own will, and that's totally, we respect that. But if somebody is coming for help, they're going to get help for sure, or shelter.
All right, so I just wanted to start. I'll introduce myself. I'm Vicky. I work at Kasan Society. I am part of the Coldest Night of the Year organizing team. This is Kylie. She is our lead organizer, and we can all thank her for putting on such an amazing event.
Oh my, thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I know we have actually a lot more people that have come today, but it was kind of a long sign-up period, so folks headed off on their walks, which is totally fine. Hopefully they'll be back for some soup. Just want to take a moment to acknowledge that we're meeting today on Sikshan territory, lands that have been stewarded since time immemorial by the Kitsillas and Kitsim-Kalim peoples. I, for one, and I think we all are so grateful to be living in this beautiful valley. Once again, thank you to everyone who has come today. This is the best Coldest Night of the Year that Kasan has ever hosted. Not only did we blast through our fundraising goal of $30,000, we've raised over $36,000. We also set a goal for registering 100 walkers, and we registered, I think, 118 at this point. So thank you all so much for all your hard work and fundraising, for coming out here and, you know, hanging out in the cold. The purpose of this event is to sort of experience what it's like to be out in the cold. We're obviously raising money and awareness to support homelessness programming in our community. Kasan Society operates a few shelters in town, and we work beyond our contracted capacity, which means that the money that we raise for Coldest Night of the Year is really essential to providing those sort of basic necessities to the folks who are using the shelter. So the money that you raised today, that goes to a lot of things. It supports sort of the operations of the shelter. It also, you know, purchases blankets, mittens, hats, groceries, basic hygiene products for clients. So your work and your fundraising goes a really long way. And some people that we want to thank specifically are volunteers, of course. Some of you are here, a lot of them are out marshalling the route, and when you pass those folks, please give them a high five or an elbow or just say thank you. We'd like to say a special thank you to Sharon, Banstra, and Sid. Sharon has helped us organize the event today. She also rallied and organized volunteers for us, and of course, advanced to offer the use of this fantastic space for today's event. We'd like to thank the Salvation Army for helping us serve the food. So at the end of your walk, you can come back and enjoy a bowl of chili or soup. Thank you to Sonder House for making the soup. Cheers. Do we have anyone else? Oh, we also want to thank our sponsors. So those are companies who who sponsored the event. And the sponsors really knocked it out of the park this year. We more than doubled the sponsorship of last year. So we're really grateful for those, bigger companies and also smaller businesses who are practicing that social corporate responsibility. We really appreciate that. And now I'm going to pass it off to Kylie, who's going to fill you in on the operations for the rest of the event.
Thanks, Vicki. Okay, so I'm a bit of a crier, and I'm going to keep my talk practical because I will cry if I talk about how great this event is. Your walk is either 2 or 2.5. I might have lied to you. It's actually 2.5. It's going to be 2.5 or 5 kilometers, depending on how energetic you are feeling. Raise your hand if you're doing 2. Oh, yeah. I like it. Raise your hand if you're doing 5. Look at how brave you are. I hope you are so cold out there. Okay, so this is how it's gonna go. You're going to start on this side of the road and you're walking to that crosswalk over at Lowen. You are scooting down Lowen with a smile on your face and a shiver in your bones. You are walking basically all the way down Lowen. You're gonna see our volunteers. They will guide you in the right direction. You're gonna hit EB. You're gonna come down EB, again, using sidewalks where possible. And then you are coming back down Park. At the Kassan Society Administration Office, you are gonna find our hot chocolate station. And our lovely Erin and Michaela and Micah are there. They have hot chocolate, they have hot water, and they have cold water if you just aren't cold enough. And then you're going to leave the hot chocolate station and come back up Calum to us. If you're doing the 5K, you're doing that twice. When you return, you're going to grab some delicious soup to go, and you are going to just enjoy your Saturday night. You are free to go after you complete your walk and grab some delicious soup.
The goal is to keep people safe and sheltered and kind of get them on their feet and empower them to sort of, live healthier, more positive lives. But I mean, in terms of use, all of our programs are operating beyond contracted capacity. So, Kassan continues to kind of grow and develop and diversify the services that it provides. And I'd say other organizations are doing the same thing, but it's hard to keep up with demand, for sure. There's a huge range of stories. There's a range of age groups. There's people who have, are new to experiencing homelessness. There are people who have been without a home for a really long time. I would say that Indigenous people are definitely overly represented in that group. And there are a lot of, systemic and historical reasons that lead to that. That's just super heartbreaking and tragic. But folks that are from Terrace, folks that are from out of town that maybe come here to work and things don't work out, they find themselves homeless. People who are coming to Terrace maybe from surrounding communities for services and for one reason or another, don't make it home or stay here. The solutions part is like a giant topic because it's systemic, it's historical, It takes way more than one housing society to address homelessness, but what CASAN does is operate shelters in town. So what we try to do is provide shelter and the basic necessities for people who are experiencing homelessness, and also we obviously provide a lot of support and outreach services. We have our capacity expansion shelter, and that's the one on Lecelles, and then we have a CASAN place, which is another shelter. The services there are a little bit different. And then we also have the transition house, which is emergency housing for women and children fleeing domestic violence. And so we work beyond contracted capacity, but what that means is that we're filling our beds in those shelters, but then for, say, CASAN residence and shelter on the south side, and for the capacity expansion shelter here on Lecelles, that means that in the evening we're sort of going into overflow beds. CASAN provides those, and we also work with a number of different agencies in town, as well as Northern Health and the city of Terrace, to try to find sort of support for individuals in need. It's definitely a community effort. CASAN, like I said, operates the homelessness shelters, but it's not just CASAN that's addressing the problem. We're trying to address the problem. We already have organizations that know about these issues. It's just sort of showing our fellow community members and maybe even our elected officials that this is that we understand that this is a systemic issue that requires resources from all levels of government, and it requires interagency organization, it requires communication and organization between different levels of government, all of these things to kind of work together to address the problem. I think one of the best ways that you can sort of support the cause is just to have the discussions and be compassionate. Make sure you have the right information about why people are in that situation. It's definitely not a choice, and what brings people into that situation is often much more complicated and powerful than they on their own can deal with. So being compassionate and being vocal about that compassion is really important, because social issues like this really require a lot of grassroots pressure from communities. There's a lot of policy changes that happen from different levels of government, and that is super important, but we also need that pressure from communities who are sort of down on the ground, seeing things happening. Donating is always an option. CASAN Society always accepts donations. You can go to our website and find a way to donate that way. All of our shelters take donations of, those basic necessities. So if anyone wanted to go and buy a bunch of shampoo or a bunch of, socks, mittens, hats, food donations, all of that is accepted. Sometimes we have to kind of figure out which program needs stuff, and so we might kind of shuffle things around, but anything like that is appreciated.